Giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, whomever you may be, whoever you may be. To you I say, Shalom, Yasharallah, Shalom. We're going to start right here in Genesis 49:1. It says, And Jacob called unto his sons, and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Gather yourselves together and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father. And the words that their father Israel, Jacob, gave to them were not really referring to them. It was actually referring to the descendants that will come from those 12 sons, those 12 patriarchs today. And when you get the word days here, which is in the Hebrew Yawam, there it is right there, Yawam. All right, day, time, year, day, 24-hour period, as a division of time. All right, time period in general, division of time. And the key thing here is last. All right, when you get the word last, it is Acharyath. Here it is right there, Acharyath, meaning what? Latter time, prophetic for future time. And these are the things that will fall upon the children that came from these 12 sons. All right. And today, or tonight, this evening, in this session, I should say, we're dealing with the tribe of Joseph, one of my favorite ancestors. Yeah, I said it 1,000 times. Joseph, all right, whose name in the Hebrew is Yahweh Sop, which means Yahweh has added. Okay, Yahweh Sop. All right. And this is in particular is not talking about actual Joseph, the forefather. Joseph is interchangeable with Ephraim. So really this is more so centered around the Ephraimites, and the Ephraimites are the so-called Puerto Rican people today. Okay, so let's get the book of Numbers chapter 1. All right, and 32, of the children of Joseph, namely of the children of Ephraim. That's pretty much the point we need right there. I mean, we could read the rest of it by their generations and their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. Those that were numbered of them, even the tribe of Ephraim, were 40,500. So that was the key of the children of Joseph, namely of the children of Ephraim, because the name Joseph is interchangeable with the name Ephraim. So sometimes you'll see Ephraim and sometimes you'll see Joseph, which of course when it's referring to the man Joseph, then you get that point. But sometimes when it's saying Joseph, is actually referring to the tribe of Ephraim, because those names are interchangeable. We'll prove it right here again in Revelation chapter 7. Right here, verse 4 says, And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and they were sealed in 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. We jump down and get verse 8. It says, Of the tribe of Zebulun were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Joseph were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Benjamin were sealed 12,000. So it says Joseph here, but it's referring to the Ephraimites. All right, so the point should be made there on how the name of Joseph and Ephraim are interchangeable. Okay, so when it's talking about the tribe of Joseph here, it's really speaking about Ephraim, the Ephraimites, which are the so-called Puerto Ricans today. Now jumping into the nitty-gritty here. It says Joseph is a fruitful bough, even a fruitful bough by a well, whose branches run over the wall. Now, this word for bough is son. We'll get it. There it is, bun in Hebrew, B-A-N is son. And you see right there, son, grandson, child, son, male child. Okay, so on and so forth. So bough is son. And when you get the word for branches, all right, it's daughter. There you go, bath, daughter. Okay, so that's very important to have that understanding there of what those words mean, because it says Joseph is a fruitful bough, even a fruitful bough by a well, whose branches run over the wall. All right, so when it says whose branches run over, well, one for one, when it says being fruitful, it's talking about having a lot of children. Okay, and you see that with the Ephraimites, they do have a lot of children. So it's a fruitful bough because fruitful, because like they told us, well, not they, but like was said in the beginning, to be fruitful and multiply. I'm not sure if they will come up with the same thing. Let me see here. Yep. Seed to bear fruit. It's talking about children to be fruitful. Branch off. Yep. Branch, seed, sprout, offshoot. Yep. So pretty much all the same there, but it's talking about that. Bear with me real quick. All right. So yeah. So yep. It says it's a fruitful bough. Yep. Joseph is a fruitful bough, even a fruitful bough by a well, whose branches run over the wall. All right. And when they first came over here, it was the island of what they call it. Is it no, not Hispaniola, because that would be where the Dominican Republic is, in Haiti. But Puerto Rico is right east, kind of southeast. But it's basically east. You know, those so-called West Indies is like 4 main particular areas there, a bunch of islands there. So Puerto Rico will be to the east of there, which also Cuba, which is really well, because when you go, when you're dealing with Cuba, that's really more so where mainly Manessa will come in at, which you'll notice Manessa is not talked about. When we've done this, this whole chapter, we actually want to come back, and talk about Manessa, because they are part of the tribes. Because if you walk up to brothers on the street, at camp, you see a sign, you're not going to see Dan there. We're breaking down the chapter itself, but what you will see is a Manessa on the sign, and Manessa are the so-called Cubans. So we will talk about Manessa as well. It's just not going to be according to this chapter here, because we're dealing with this chapter in particular. But yeah, Cuba, Puerto Rico, which the island Puerto Rico, what do they call it, rich port, okay, the conquistadors called it. So it says whose branches run over the wall. And once again, speaking about how they were very fruitful, as in having children, and they were also looking for a better life. So they would come to the Americas, like most nations do. But we're talking about these so-called Puerto Ricans in particular. They came to America, and you see them everywhere, man. Issachar and Ephraim, those are 2 tribes that I see everywhere. Okay, so yeah, and they are everywhere. But yeah, they came to America for a better life, like most people usually do. It says the archers have sorely grieved him and shot at him and hated him. And that's what we just spoke about, the conquistadors. And there's a quick scripture we're going to grab here in Hosea chapter 9. All right. Verse 13. Hosea 9:13. Ephraim, as I saw Tyrus, is planted in a pleasant place. That's the island of Puerto Rico. Beautiful place to live on. All right. They got the 2 little I guess we'll call them rainforests, but you mostly hear by Oyunke. You got all kinds of beautiful fruits and stuff like that. The land is beautiful. It's a beautiful island. All right. It's a pleasant place. But Ephraim shall bring forth his children to the murderer. Okay, dealing with those conquistadors, and even dealing with them coming to America, which is no different. That's just a different shade of the history there. I was wondering if it pulls up. So I want to get one more. Hosea 7:8. Ephraim, he hath mixed himself among the people. Ephraim is a cake not turned. Yep. And so, because you have which you see that in all the tribes really. But you have Ephraim, you'll see these very light-skinned Ephraimites. Sometimes they might even look white. It's like a so-called Ephraimite, but you have the very light-skinned Ephraimites. Then you have the very dark-skinned Ephraimites, and then you have some that were in between. Okay, so Ephraim, he hath mixed himself among the people. Ephraim is a cake not turned. So there you go, light-skinned, dark-skinned. Okay, and that's what you see with these Ephraimites, and they look that way. I'm just getting a couple key verses. There's a lot more we can go into. I'm just getting some couple key verses here that I want to bring out. Because all these breakdowns, well, I learned them from the apostles. Which, well, when I was looking at those videos, I found them. The last time I looked, they were getting harder because YouTube Esau does. They were getting harder to find, but you might still be able to find those videos where the apostles broke down all the tribes. And of course, I watched some other brothers because I like to kind of gather all that I can gather. Okay, not meaning that I'm gonna grab every single precept. I might have those for myself, but then I'll gather whatever I can gather, then figure out what's necessary to bring out in the lesson. Okay, and what's not necessary. All right, but yeah, you can find these breakdowns. Should be able to still find these breakdowns from the apostles. It's where I learned them from. But yeah, so the archers have sorely grieved him and shot at him and hated him. Those conquistadors. As a matter of fact, let's jump over here and my Hebrew book there. Let's see. All right, let's type in 1511 rebellion. Yep, 1511. Oh, wait a minute, I didn't type that. 1511 rebellion. There you go. Yep, 1511 rebellion. Okay. Okay. Let me see here. That's interesting because this is what I think we talked about. We brought this up recently. Where we just bring this up at? I believe we just brought this up. Maybe not. Anyways. Interesting. The Spanish Anti-Union War. Oh, not what I was reading. I was just thinking because you see the Wikipedia is in purple. Usually the words will be blue. So we pulled this up before. Unless it was me on my own time off camera, I can't even remember. It says the Spanish Anti-Union War of San Juan Borriquin, also known as the Taino Rebellion of 1511. Yeah, they were known as the Taino people. It says was the first major conflict to take place in Borriquin, modern-day Puerto Rico, after the arrival of the Spaniards on November 19th, 1943. And I guess it doesn't really matter which one. They're both the Wikipedia, so let's just pull it up. So this is probably what I have right here. Okay, so that's something else, but we'll get into that in another time. So Spanish Taino War of San Juan, or the Borriquin, right? The Spanish Anti-Union War of San Juan Borriquin, also known as the Taino Rebellion of 1511, was the first major conflict to take place in Borriquin, modern-day Puerto Rico, right? Puerto Rico, meaning rich port. After the arrival of who? The Spaniards. And they have been across the board so far, okay? Because there were other, Edomite groups, okay, under different names, but those Spaniards are pretty much across the board, and they were very deadly, just evil, all right, wicked. After the arrival of the Spaniards on November 19th, 1493. Yep, because what was it? You have the old saying from school, 1492, Columbus sailed the blue. Well, Cristobal Colon, 1492 is all true, okay? He was a demon. Because there's a few names that will come up like him, Christopher Columbus, so-called Cristobal Colon. There's another one I see right here. I was just looking down at it. All right, Juan Ponce de Leon. What's this other guy's name? Andrew Jackson. We just talked about the other day, William Trent. There's another demon. What is his doggone name? I can't even remember right now. Hernan Cortez. And there's one more too. But you get the point though. All right. So yeah, after the death of Agubano the First, the Taino high chief, who struck the initial peace agreement with Spanish conquistador Juan Ponce de Leon in 1508, Agubano II rose to power, beginning his reign amidst native dissatisfaction with the encomiendas system and the acquisition. And actually, because I've read that before, so what I'll do is I'll pull it up for you. First, I'm going to get Agubano because there's a statue, I believe, of him. If it comes up, I'm not sure. Okay, because I've seen a statue of Agubano the First, but it's not coming up, so it's all good. Let me try this. Agubano the Second. Oh, there it is, right? Okay, so that's the first. It's the second. Cool. So there it is, statue of Agubano the Second, El Bravo. All right, in Ponce, because Ponce is a place in Puerto Rico. I think there's a couple things named after Ponce with the name Ponce. Okay, in Puerto Rico, if I'm correct. One of those in the south that I'm thinking about, like central south of the island. I believe it's like a city, might even be a port, or at least it's close to the coast. But El Bravo meaning the brave. Okay, born 1470, Puerto Rican. Okay, it's what they call themselves. 1511, age 40-41. And I really just wanted to bring up a statue. All right, brother of Agabana. All right, so yeah, beautiful statue there. All right, big old chopper in his hand. And I don't mean a gun, that's a sword. Big old sword in his hand. Beautiful statue. Look, see, there's more of the history there. Agabana the Older received the Spanish conquistador Juan Ponce de Leon upon Ponce de Leon's arrival to Puerto Rico in 1508. According to an old Taino tradition, Agabana practiced the Gaitao, a Taino ritual in which he and Juan Ponce de Leon became friends and exchanged names. Agabana had obeyed his mother's advice to become friends with the Spaniards lest they all die at their hands. The hospitality and friendly treatment that the Spaniards received from Agabana made it easy for the Spaniards to betray. I was about to mention that, but see, I'm glad I kept reading, because they turned on him anyways. All right, to betray and conquer the island later. Agabana's actions helped to maintain the peace between the Taino and the Spaniards, a peace which was to be short-lived. Yep, see. And see, that makes me want to read more of the history there, but I don't want to go too far into it, because I like to read it. I know I'll read it on my own time if I come back to it. But yeah, definitely read the Taino Rebellion of 1511, which is probably where we were anyways, in the general information area here. Yeah, pretty much. As a matter of fact, it might be better if we read that, because that was the main reason we came over here. Because this is all the history too, but it's just going deeper into it. And I don't want to go that deep, so let's go back over there. What did we pull up? Agabana. Yep, the second. And yep, the Taino Rebellion. Yep, so upon the senior Agabana's death in 1510, his brother Gayobana, better known as Agabana II, became the most powerful cacique in the entire island. Agabana II had his doubts about the godly status of the Spaniards. He came up with the plan to test the perceived godly nature of the Spanish. He and Urayon, cacique of Añasco, sent some of their tribe members to lure a Spaniard by the name of Diego Salcedo into a river and drown him. They watched over Salcedo's body to make sure that he would not resuscitate. Salcedo's death was enough to convince him and the rest of the Taino people that the Spaniards were not gods. Good job. Alright, Agabana II held arietos, or war dances, or secret meetings with others caciques, where he organized a revolt against the Spaniards. Cristobal de Sotomayor sent a spy, Juan Gonzalez, to one of the arietos where he learned of Agabana's plans. In spite of the warning, Agabana II killed Sotomayor and his men and gravely wounded Gonzalez. Juan Gonzalez escaped, making his way to Capara, where he reported the killings to Ponce de Leon. Meanwhile, Garionix, cacique of Utuado, attacked the village of Sotomayor, present-day Aguada, and killed 80 of its inhabitants. After this, Ponce de Leon led the Spaniards in a series of offensives against the Taínos that culminated in the Battle of Yaguacas. I guess that's how you pronounce it. All right, and yeah, and they were almost wiped out. Not in that particular battle there, just over time. You go into all that history, you get those numbers there. Man, they were really devastated, all right, by these Spaniards, man. All right, a lot of deaths. Okay. And I'm not sure if we can actually find that, because we're gonna go into it in a second. In the next scripture, I believe the next scripture mentions that. Let's see. We'll type in this. I gotta erase that. How many Taino did the Spaniards or Spaniards, doesn't really matter, Spaniards kill? Let me delete this here. See what comes up. Look, there you go, right there. Taino genocide. AI overview. Spanish conquest led to the near total annihilation of the Taino people, with estimates suggesting 80 to 90% of the population died within the first 30 years, from roughly 3 million down to a few hundred by the mid 1500s, through mass murder, enslavement, disease, starvation, and brutal exploitation. Not just direct killings, but a catastrophic demographic collapse. And what's interesting here is everything we just read there, you can put it across the board with those Northern Kingdom tribes. It was all the same. Everything was all the same with the whole Northern Kingdom tribes, man. Massacre and violence. Spanish conquistadors, driven by gold and power, committed atrocities, including torture, mass killings, and collective punishments. And it goes deeper than just that. You know, with their conquest for gold, those punishments, man. Enslavement and forced labor. The system of encomienda forced Taino into brutal labor in mines and fields, leading to exhaustion and death. Yeah, because the other day we talked about William Trent. He was in league with some other guy's name, all right, with this whole system there. So yeah, he had slaves. Right, disease, European diseases like smallpox, to which the Taino had no immunity, devastated populations. Notice that's the same thing you read about when you read about the so-called Native American Indians. Starvation and displacement. Forced relocations and disruption of food systems led to widespread famine. Population collapse. Before Columbus, Hispaniola, modern-day Haiti and Dominican Republic, had an estimated 3 million Taino. By the 1540s, only about 150 Taino remained on the island as a result of this genocide. Okay. In essence, while exact numbers of direct killings are difficult to pinpoint, the overall death toll from all causes was catastrophic, wiping out the Taino as a distinct demographic group. And then you have some sources that will say they were knocked down to 500, some will say 400, some will say 200. But I mean, what else can you say when it says devastation? I mean, it speaks for itself. So going back, yep, the archers have surely grieved him and shot at him and hated him. But his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Yep, and so even with all the slaughter and the death and the killing and so on and so forth, the starvation, they could not kill them, off, all right, entirely, okay, because they were blessed to be fruitful, like it says, all right. Joseph is a fruitful bough, okay, whose branches run over the wall, and as we spoke about, they have a lot of children, and that's what happened. They continued to have children, okay. You couldn't kill them off, okay. Though they were reduced to almost being, I guess you could say, extinct. And, if that's a word you could use for humans, usually use it for animals, but they treated us like animals, but you just couldn't kill them off. Yeah, so I mean, because the conquistadors, they tried to exterminate the Tainos, all right, and a lot of their ambition was behind gold. Okay, verse 20. Wait, did I skip? No, yeah, we were at 24. So verse 25. It says, "Even by the God of thy father, who shall help thee, and by the Almighty, who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breast and of the womb. The blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren." All right. And going back to verse 25, it says, "Who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breast and of the womb." Okay, which pretty much, well, really, when you read 25 and 26, overall is going into their beautiful island. All right, which we talked about what it means, or what the Edomites named it, rich port, Puerto Rico. Okay, the beautiful island that they live on. They had lush environment, all kinds of tropical fruits and things of that nature. Of course, gold was a thing. What you hear about these conquistadors looking for in the first place. Okay, and the Spaniards. Let me see if I can pull this up. Well, I mean, well, we don't have to really put it up. I mean, with the Spaniards, they mined gold from what 1509 to 1579, something like that. All right. And we just read. Well, let me pull that back over here, real quick. And yeah, I'm gonna type in 1508. Capybara. Well, I think we just read about that. Oh, actually not capybara. Capara settlement. Right, which was founded by Juan Ponce de Leon. Here it is. The 1508 Capara settlement was Puerto Rico's first European town, founded by Juan Ponce de Leon in what is now Guaynabo, or Guaynabo, serving as the initial Spanish capital. It was abandoned by 1521 due to mosquito problems and vulnerability to attacks, with settlers relocating to the current site of Old San Juan, leading to a name swap where the island became Puerto Rico and the town San Juan. The ruins are now a National Historic Landmark. All right, there's that demon Juan Ponce de Leon. We're not going to read into all that. I just want to bring it up real quick. But yeah, so, just speaking of their island, because in verse 26 it says, the blessing of thy father hath prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren. And because that's speaking of how Joseph Joseph was separated from his brothers, because if you go back to Genesis, read the history of Joseph, he basically ended up in captivity under the Egyptians. Okay. Because you had the 7 years of plenty and the 7 years of famine and so on and so forth. Joseph rose to being second in that empire, which is how his family survived the famine and so on and so forth. But him, because his father thought he was dead, torn about wild, because the story that his brothers made up. So he was separated from his brothers because he wasn't dead. So it was likening the separation of Joseph from his brothers to how the northern and the southern kingdom were pretty much separated, because after the Assyrian captivity, the northern kingdom Israelites came over here to the Americas, and from that point forward, there was a total separation of north and south, because the northern kingdom came over here, which you had a sprinkle of the northern kingdom still back east, but we're talking about majority numbers. And then because in the New Testament, what you're talking about is what's mostly spoken about is the southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Okay. So yeah, so it's likening that separation there of the tribes themselves to Joseph and his brothers. That's what that means there when it says that was separate from his brethren, right? So they shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren. Okay. Yeah, and that's it right there. So we can jump over here to Deuteronomy. Obviously, a lot more history we can get into. We could have talked about some of the good fruits and things, on their island. The rainforest, the beautiful, all those different things there. But we're going to get Deuteronomy 33 and 13. And of Joseph, he said, blessed of the Lord Yahweh be his land. Going once again to the very beautiful island, the fruitful land that they lived on. It says, for the precious things of heaven, for the dew, and for the deep that coucheth beneath. Okay, so yeah, I mean, is over and over speaking about just how beautiful the land is, and the fruits. They got land to farm on, and all these different things. All right, a lot of good things there on the island of Puerto Rico. Very beautiful island. Verse 14 says, and for the precious fruits, there you go, brought forth by the sun, and for the precious things put forth by the moon. So I mean, that's self-explanatory, because after we just mentioned it. And for the chief things of the ancient mountains, and for the precious things of the lasting hills, and for the precious things of the earth and fullness thereof, and for the good will of him that dwelt in the bush, let the blessing come upon the head of Joseph, and upon the top of the head of him that was separated from his brethren. That's the same thing we just read there in Genesis. Okay, so really, it's all self-explanatory there. because it's going into the lush island of Puerto Rico, just to summarize it all. Okay. Verse 17 says, his glory is like the firstling of his bullock, and his horns are like the horns of unicorns. With them he shall push the people together to the ends of the earth, and they are the 10,000s of Ephraim. Once again, Ephraim being the so-called Puerto Ricans who we've been talking about, and they are the thousands of Manasseh. So this is very important, because in these latter days you have just that, with the Lord pouring his spirit back out upon the house of Israel. You have not only southern kingdom but also northern kingdom Israelites who are rising up. And in particular, as this verse reads, it says his glory is like the firstling of his bullock, and his horns are like the horns of unicorns. With them he shall push the people together to the ends of the earth. So it's going to Ephraim and Manasseh rising up, teaching this truth on the earth today in real time, over the unicorn, which is the internet, the satellite dishes going out throughout the four corners of the earth and playing their role in gathering the tribes. Well, in particular, the remnant, but you get the point. Playing their role in prophesying in these latter days, okay, for the elect's sake. So it says, and they are the 10,000s of Ephraim, and they are the thousands of Manasseh. All right. And like I said, there's probably more things we could have went into, but there's no need to go super, super deep. I just want to bring out a couple things there. So that's pretty much, that Genesis 49 dealing with Joseph, which is really talking about the tribe of Ephraim. So Lord willing, you will edify to next time. Yasharal, I'm going to say Shalom.